To the decision by the Supreme Court overturning New York State's guidelines on concealed guns in public. In a 135-page ruling, the High Court struck down the century-old law, claiming it violates constitutional rights.
The court was split down ideological lines. The 6 conservative-leaning justices voting to overturn the law, the 3 liberal-leaning justices voting to uphold it. We have team coverage for you tonight. Carolyn Gussoff with reaction from supporters of the ruling. Marcia Kramer with reaction from local and state leaders. But we begin with Tony Aiello and how the court came to this ruling. Tony.
Maurice, it comes down to this. In most states, to get a carry permit, you have to meet objective criteria. No criminal record, no mental or substance abuse issues. You generally qualify. But New York adds subjective criteria. Do you face special danger that justifies carrying a pistol? The court voted 6-3 to strike that down. After 8 years of court battles, the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association declared victory.
The lawful and legal gun owner of New York State is no longer going to be persecuted by laws that have nothing to do with the safety of the people and will do nothing to make the people safer.
Oral arguments at the Supreme Court last November made it clear multiple justices were skeptical of New York's pistol permit laws, which required applicants to prove they faced special or unique danger and had proper cause to get a carry permit.
Why isn't it good enough to say I live in a violent area and I want to be able to defend myself?
How is that consistent with the core right to self-defense, which is protected by the Second Amendment?
43 states had less restrictive concealed carry laws than New York, a fact cited by Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote in the majority opinion, because New York issues public carry licenses only when an applicant demonstrates a special need for self-defense, we conclude that the state's licensing regime violates the Constitution. Attorney Philip Hamilton says the court decided you shouldn't have to prove a special need to exercise a constitutional right.
Having to show historically, have you had situations where people may have been trying to harm you? It's just going a bit too far, particularly when historically those regulations were not something in U.S. history that were applicable. You had the right to bear arms, and as far as the court interpreted as much today, they found that New York's regulatory structure just went well beyond the constitutional protections.
This case made for some interesting bedfellows. Conservative icon, retired Judge Michael Ludig, supported New York's pistol permit restrictions as a historically rooted option for reducing the harms of gun violence in public, while the Progressive Legal Aid Society wanted the law struck down, saying it embodied arbitrary licensing standards that have inhibited lawful black and brown gun ownership in New York. Here on the East Coast, New Jersey, Maryland, and Massachusetts have gun permit laws similar to the ones struck down in New York. All those laws now vulnerable to legal challenges. Christine.
All right, Tony, thank you. And in a statement, President Biden said that he is deeply disappointed by the Supreme Court ruling, saying, quote, it contradicts both common sense and the Constitution and should deeply trouble us all. He urged states to pass new laws and also called on Americans across the country to make their voices heard on gun safety, adding lives are on the line.
And today's gun rights decision does not only affect New York. About 1/4 of the American population lives in states impacted by the High Court ruling. California, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Jersey all have similar gun laws to New York's. CBS 2's Kevin Rincon is in Weehawken right now with reaction there in New Jersey. Kevin.
And Dana, that ruling does strike down the ability for cities and states to limit who can carry a concealed weapon. And we're already seeing that have an impact on what kinds of guns people want to buy. Hours after the Supreme Court's ruling, Caleb Ostalaza was here at Urban Tactical. He came to trade in his handgun. He got something smaller to better carry when the rules change.
When it does happen, I want to have something that's comfortable because that's not really a carry gun.
He wasn't alone. Store owner Fernando Colon, an Army veteran and former cop, has seen growing demand for smaller weapons.
This is definitely a great carry gun, especially for a beginner.
He says gun violence has created a desire for people to defend themselves. Says his shop provides that opportunity in a safe way.
State police gives you a background check. Federal government gives you a background check. We do mental health checks here.
But lawmakers feel that's not enough. Governor Murphy, reacting to the Scotus ruling, says this dangerous decision will make America a less safe country. The ruling could undermine limitations on concealed carry in New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Rhode Island, among other states. Senator Cory Booker says the decision directly threatens New Jersey's gun permitting law that helps protect the people of my state and the United States from gun violence and burdens future state efforts to do the same. Back at the shop, gun owners say the ability to carry is a positive. He says those with illegal firearms would think twice to use them if others are armed. At the same time, he agrees more can be done to prevent weapons from landing in the wrong hands. He says they should ensure people get a mental health evaluation, even a drug test, before getting a license. And Dana, regardless of where you fall on the gun debate, this ruling will have an impact on more than 80 million Americans across the country. We're live in Weehawken. Kevin Rincon, CBS 2 News.
Kevin, thank you.
Now at 4, a Supreme Court decision on a New York state law that has a major impact here in California. The ruling means more people will be allowed to carry concealed weapons. Good afternoon, I'm Juan Fernandez.
And I'm Serene Branson in Today for Susie Sa. This is KCAL 9 News at 4, streaming on CBS News Los Angeles. That law is very similar to California's, placing strict limits on who is allowed to carry a gun outside the home.
Leaders here in California are already planning moves in response. KCAL 9's Jeff Nguyen is live in downtown LA with our top story. Jeff?
Juan and Serene, LA County has some of the toughest standards when it comes to CCWs. However, Sheriff Alex Villanueva says that he has been expanding their approval even before the Supreme Court decision.
I was extremely interested, but it always sounded futile to me to even begin the process.
Gun owner Cesar Juarez says he's more inclined to apply for a concealed carry weapons permit after a 6-3 ruling from the Supreme Court. The conservative majority expanded gun rights in New York, California, and a handful of other states. Jonathan Solomon is a former police officer who now owns Redstone Firearms in Burbank. He says California will now have to join 43 states that have so-called shall issue standards.
What that means is basically the states now shall issue you a CCW or concealed weapons permit if you pass background checks, 1. 2, if you take all the required training courses.
The High Court says Americans have the right to carry firearms outside of their home for self-defense. However, California has required concealed carry permits to only be issued to those who could show a good cause or special need to be armed.
Even though the Supreme Court said you can carry a concealed weapon, it didn't say you can carry any weapon.
California's Attorney General says the ruling does affirm states' rights on gun laws. He's working with lawmakers to respond to the High Court's decision.
The court did not disturb California's longstanding efforts to prevent dangerous individuals from obtaining these permits.
Of California's 58 counties, 37 already grant permits simply if an applicant requested for self-defense. The other 21 counties, including Los Angeles, have tighter standards. For example, requiring applicants to demonstrate that they have business-related or professional risks that justify them being armed. The LA County Sheriff's Department says Sheriff Alex Villanueva has expanded the number of approved concealed weapons permits, and the department's legal team is currently reviewing the Supreme Court decision and if or how it will affect California laws.
I think CCWs are definitely going to go up. I know among my friends, all of them have considered it.
We reached out to the LAPD about this matter but haven't heard back. The OC Sheriff's Department says that it will analyze and assess the Supreme Court decision, while the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department says that it will allow personal protection as a reason for a CCW application. We are live in downtown Los Angeles. Jeff Nguyen, KCAL 9 News.
All right, Jeff.